Hey, good morning. It is Thursday, March 7th. The sun is shining brightly, almost enough to do this without the big lights on, but I feel a little weird about the side lighting. Anyway, so full lights on. And since it is Thursday, I don't have class until noon, and I've had a quiet morning in. I slept until 7 instead of 6:30 because I'm crazy. And then I had some breakfast and did some reading and have just enjoyed a little bit of a slow, sleepy morning. The sun coming in, thinking about my reading, thinking about the papers I have to write and all of that, and trying to get my mind right to do that. Trying to think of I'm really futzing with this hair today. Trying to think of anything big and exciting class today for 2 hours, and that's about the gist of the day. Gonna try to get some other life stuff done. In exciting news, I have my final exam schedule, and I'm actually very glad that my 2 exams and all of my papers are due by my 2 exams are at the end of April, like the 23rd and 24th, I think. And then all of my final papers are due by May 1st. And I think some people are upset about kind of the condensed, packed timeline of all of that. But I am so glad to just have all of it done by the start of May and have a little extra time to start thinking about my dissertation and a little extra time just to decompress and to celebrate the end of term. I booked myself a quick sojourn over to Paris, so I'm going to go to Paris for like 24 hours at the start of May, which will be a ton of fun, and we'll see how many croissants I can eat in that time, and we'll see if my rusty basic French will help me at all. Parlez-vous en français? Oui, je parle un peu de français, mais je ne parle pas bien. Oh, my accent is terrible, but I'll hopefully be able to understand things and get by, and it's only 24 hours, so who cares? It's really great that the train over there is only like 2.5 hours, which is super awesome. So I am excited to head to Paris and kind of do the quick highlights. I have kind of an aggressive list of like, see it, visit it, done. And it'll mostly just kind of contain itself within the central part of Paris, because we won't have time for much further exploring. And then after that, about a week after I go to Paris, I'm going to go home for about 10 days, and that's super exciting. I was debating whether or not I should, and I don't know, it felt like it would be too long of a time for my own self and well-being from, I came back here at the, January 2nd, and I am done here in September, and it felt like it would be too long to go from January to sometime in September without going home, just for my own self and wellness. I don't know for, maybe other people are excited about it. I know my family's excited about it, but yeah, so I booked a trip home, and I am excited to spend a week at home in May, and I'll get to celebrate my sister's birthday. I think she's going to come home from New York too. And then Healy, the dog's birthday, and I think my dad wants to have a rummage sale. So big things happening when I'm at home in May, but all good things. And then in June, my sister is coming, and all this time I'm going to write a dissertation too. And so my sister Jenny's coming in June, and my sister Becky and I have been talking a little bit about a European a European vacation. I think we'll go to Italy and we'll go to Switzerland, and we'll see if we add anything else to the list, but we'll see if that gets on the calendar. Gotta get that travel in while I'm here. It's cheaper to go now than to move back home and then keep coming back. So anyway, this is gonna be a long video today, I think. That's okay, some of my other ones have been short. I was thinking about, I had a small moment at the gym yesterday, where I was doing what are called good mornings, where you have a bar on your back and you're bending slowly forward. It's a good back and hamstring exercise. And I've been playing around with the weights on that one, trying to figure out, a good weight level. And I had a small moment, as I occasionally do when I'm doing weight stuff at the gym, of like panic, where I think my back is not going to like whatever it is I'm doing, and then it turns out to be okay. So anticlimactic story there, but I've been thinking a lot about I don't know, I always say I've been thinking a lot about it. I just think a lot. Like 4 years ago, there was a time. Imagine this. I want you to stand up and try to bend from your waist without bending your knees. Bend from your waist and reach down and touch your knees. And then you do that, and then try to do the same thing, but then just touch like your mid-upper quad area. And there was a time about 4 years ago that I couldn't do that. I couldn't bend from my waist without bending my knees or anything, and touch just like the middle parts of my thigh. Just like I couldn't, like, you kind of stand and wherever your hands naturally hit on your legs, like I couldn't bend or move them past that. And that's because I hurt my back really badly. I had been running and training for a half marathon. I had run a lot of not a lot. I had run 3 previous half marathons, had done well in them. I enjoy, or at least I enjoyed. I haven't run one since, but I enjoyed the training process for it. I enjoyed kind of the intensity, the routine, the exertion, the discipline that goes into training for a half marathon. And in this half marathon, which I ran in October 2014, it was the same process, although this time, I would say I was 28, or I turned 28 in September 2014. So, I was feeling good, and then all of a sudden in the I don't know, final 6 weeks of the training, I started to feel a little bit more stiff. My legs were more tired. I was more sore, and I wasn't doing anything different. And then a week before the race, I felt some twinging in my lower back, which was a new experience for me. And then I ignored it because I was young and stupid. And then I got up on race day. I was still, that whole week I was stiff and sore, and I didn't do a whole lot of running, trying to just taper down and not overdo it. And on race day, got up, I was still stiff. A smarter me now would be like, just don't run the race, even though you trained for it and you paid for it. Like, it's not worth it to run the race and risk getting hurt if you're still feeling that stiff and all of that. But didn't take that advice for myself, and I ran the race, and I did fine. I finished in under 2 hours, as I had in all of my half marathons. It was my slowest half marathon, but it's a half marathon, so whatever. And as soon as I finished, like, I felt my entire back just like seize up. It felt tight, intense in my lower left back, and it was painful. And I didn't do anything specific to hurt it, I don't think, but so I finished the race, and I felt all that pain, and I tried to do some stretching before getting in the car to go home, and it felt a little looser after some stretching, and then got in the car and drove home. And the entire way home, I could feel it getting worse and worse. I had the seat warmers on to try to keep it loose, and it didn't help that much. I felt like it felt stiff, it felt sore. Like, whenever I try to move like my left leg or anything, I could feel pain. And when I got home, I could barely get myself out of the car. And it was a Saturday, so I spent the rest of the day just like uncomfortable, in pain, trying to like stretch and do something to feel better. I was just pushing on it a lot. And because pushing on it, the pressure felt momentarily good, and then it would go away. yeah, and then so on Sunday I went and got an emergency massage. That didn't help. It may have made it worse. I don't know if you should get a massage when the muscle's that tender and that sore. And then on Monday I called the doctor because at that point I could, like, it hurt to stand, it hurt to sit, it hurt to lay in just about every position. Sleeping was hard, getting out of bed was hard, getting into my car was hard. So anyway, the doctor prescribed two things. First thing was a muscle relaxer for a couple of days to help get some sleep and help at least when it was time for bed, calm the muscle down. And man, muscle relaxers are a trip. It's such a dissociative feeling where it's like you're laying in bed, but it literally feels like your body is a ton of bricks. And I couldn't, it was just such a weird feeling, but it did help me sleep for a couple of days, which I'm grateful for. And then she prescribed physical therapy. And I spent 8 weeks, about 6-8 weeks in physical therapy, about twice a week. And the PT was on my intake assessment was just stunned at one, how tight like the spot in my lower back was, and it was also bruised because I had been pushing on it a lot. And then she was doing some other tests and it was like my hamstrings were complete, just like tight taut things, and my hips were really stiff and inflexible. And she was essentially amazed that I could be such a proficient runner and have run a half marathon with everything being that stiff and tight and all of that. So I'm a wonderkin. I can do amazing things. And I've been thinking about like lessons learned in taking care of yourself, and the idea, like, I mean, I learned a lot in physical therapy. Like, we really focused on, like, the essential, the moral of the story was like I hurt my back because my hamstrings were tight, my hips weren't being stretched, my hamstrings weren't being stretched, my hips weren't being stretched, my glutes weren't strong enough, and all of that kind of combined into exploding into my back. And so the idea of like preemptive self-care is something that manifests itself in me daily in stretching. And so there won't be many days of the year where you won't find me at least once a day stretching, usually twice a day stretching, because preventative care comes in lots of different ways. And even though I'm not as an aggressive of a runner, I still run a lot, I'm just not as aggressively as I was. And I do more weight stuff now, so hopefully my hamstrings and glutes and all of that are stronger anyway. But yeah, preventative care is important, and it's important to remember that preventative care comes in like lots of different ways. So, eating healthy, drinking enough water, brushing your teeth, all of those things are preventative. But then, there's, for me, every day there's stretching, and it's important for me to take that time, even if it's I have to get up an extra 15 minutes early to make sure I have that time. I know it's necessary and I know it's important. And taking that time for myself is critical. And there aren't many things in a day that will keep me from doing my stretches at least once, because I know it's good for my body physically, but it's also now at this point like a good mental thing for me. It's 15 minutes of quiet time, or usually podcast listening time. It's 15 minutes of like, I know I'll feel less paranoid throughout the day if I got my stretches in, and making sure that I feel loose and limber and focusing on my body for a little bit. So all that to say is today is a day off from working out, but I did my morning stretches, and I'm looking forward to this evening when I do my evening stretches. Basically the same stretches both times a day, but they feel good in the morning when your body is not sore, but stiff from a good night's sleep, and feel good at the end of the day when you've been walking around and expending energy. So take care of yourself is a moral of the story, and don't become a runner and never stretch like I did for a really long time. I was a runner for 3 years at that point, didn't think stretching was important, turned 28 and the whole thing just blew up in my face. So now stretch more than anything else, and good stuff will follow. This is Long. I'm leaving. Have a wonderful day and make good choices.